Welcome everyone to Miracles with a Twist Conversations. I'm Reverend Cardona. I'm here with Reverend Lisa Benton, and we're here to dig deep and unpack issues related to A Course in Miracles, and specifically in reference to discussions that we wanted to follow up on from our live stream. Miracles with a Twist is a live stream that occurs on Thursday evenings. Sometimes it's live, sometimes it's a throwback, but we always take time to unpack, dig deep, and look closer at the issues that came up and that were presented, the lessons, whether they're from the text, the workbook, or the manual for teachers, clarification of terms. It's just an amazing, jam-packed, rich, full course of teachings. And we just want to really take time to look at as much as we can in the course of a short conversation. And we do that as interfaith ministers. We look at things, the lessons from A Course in Miracles as they're presented, but also from an everyday spirituality perspective as well as an interfaith perspective. So I'm so glad to be here with you. I'm so glad to be here with Goddi Lisa. And let's take a moment to be joined in our breath. So let's all take a nice deep breath together. And as we exhale, we put our hands on our heart and feel our heartbeat. And in this moment of connecting with our heart, we also connect with the divine. And we say, here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, here's my life, here's my willingness to be of service as a voice for peace, as a conduit of compassion. To rise with certainty every morning, knowing that we will be guided and directed if we just listen carefully while we look within. And we give thanks for your presence here today, for all of us who truly, deeply, and sincerely want to unpack and dig deep into issues that were brought to us by you. So we give thanks for spirit, we give thanks for one another, we take another nice deep breath, and come centered into this moment together. So, hello, my dear Goddi Lisa.
Hello, RevLo. It's so nice to see you. It's so great to be here. And I am quite fired up to talk about Thursday.
Great.
It just resonated with me, and my whole thought process has stemmed from Thursday evening until right now at this moment. So I'm going to be, I'm just boiling over with neat stuff. And it's
great.
It's just so cool because I've seen a tremendous amount of synchronicity since Thursday about this. All the way up to this morning when I was at the gym listening to a Russell Brand and Muji Under the Skin podcast. It's just amazing. So to get me going, what resonated with me initially and what we really kind of talked about is monitoring our own thoughts and ultimately getting to that dream or that whatever happens of the universal collective thought, divine love, peace, all of that. And so that begins with, monitoring our own thoughts. So I can think of so many times where a thought has come to my head and I've dismissed it, or I've gotten so deeply into it that I'm, find myself staring at a wall or whatever, and still coming out of it wondering what I'm thinking about. And so either I believe you said it or it was something that I got out of what we were talking about that evening. And it's up to no one but me to clean up my piece. So, and that is, I think we talk about that throughout A Course in Miracles. So many spiritualities talk about it in different ways, about everything coming from us, individually in our hearts through spirit. However, I this morning, Russell Brand actually asked Muji a question, and it really resonated with me, what Muji said. And this really helps me because in my meditations, and I'm very committed to meditation, particularly in the morning with meditation and prayer and just being quiet. Thoughts come to my head when I don't want them there. When I meditate, I want to go into a meditation, go into deep transcendence, and have the world just go away, and I am one with the divine. Doesn't work for me that way, and I don't believe it works for most people that way. We have these thoughts, and I have been told, and I've heard and tried and everything, just let the thoughts go by, and don't engage in them, just let them go. And if I'm doing a meditation with mantra, thoughts come to your mind, don't engage, don't dismiss, go back to the mantra. Well, that may all sound very sensible when one is trying to achieve, as I believe it's the Buddhist, no mantra, no thought. Or Hindu, no mantra, no thought. It's very nice to give you all these steps, but to actually practice them, which is what the mystical path is all about experience. It's got to be an experience, not just something that we do. We take steps to hopefully bring us to that mystical place. So Muji, Russell Brand, who is, for those of you who don't know, he's a podcaster and he's an actor and he's kind of all over the place and everything, but I happen to like him, and he always has very interesting people on. And while he's a very powerful, energetic guy, when he interviews somebody, it's all about the person he's interviewing, and it's a very beautiful experience. So, and with Muji, it was a very beautiful experience. So he told Muji, he said, you know, when I'm meditating, I get these thoughts, and I don't like a lot of them. And just like he said, you know, they can be about drug addiction, because he's a recovering addict and alcoholic. He said alcoholism, pornography, cigarettes, you name it, anything can come through my head. And I just don't know what to do with them. And I'm told, you know, just what I was saying. The same thing about letting them flow and don't engage. And then we hear at the same time that that we need to engage to a certain point because we don't want to suppress. So Muji said something that I thought was really cool, and that was that our thoughts don't define us. Now, that blew me away, because I think of, for example, when I was attending Unity, there was a song that we sang that said, our thoughts are our prayers. So our prayers, aren't our prayers us? You know, are my prayers me? Well, the way Muji put it, because I often wondered about that when I was having a thought that wasn't so kind, I don't want that to be my prayer. So I have to, what do I do with this thought that I've just put out into the ethers? So he said, I think it's essential that you understand that your thoughts do not define you. How, and I'm paraphrasing, how your soul responds to your thoughts defines you. Everybody has all kinds of thoughts all day long. Beautiful, loving, not beautiful, not at all loving, judgmental, all of that. And the way we respond, we recognize it, which we have talked about and is one of the, if not the main tenet in, or principle in A Course in Miracles, is a shift in perception, is how I understood what Muji was saying, is how we deal with our thoughts. Is if it's not a, you know, something that is bringing me closer to my connection with the divine, then I ask for a miracle. I ask for a shift in perception. Help me to see this differently. And that defines who I am. And I just thought that was for me so helpful in all the issues that I go through in meditation, in trying to. And this is another thing that was said either last week or the week before. Don't let theology trip you up, because and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, can get into my head way too deeply. It may be for a good purpose and it's not nasty or judgmental or whatever, but at the same time, it's not it's not bringing me closer to this divine experience, the divine flow with God. It's just not, because I'm too intense. So to realize that these thoughts are mine, I don't judge them. Nobody is responsible for them but me. Nobody can clean them up or make them a mess but me. And the way I respond to them can bring me closer to this universal loving consciousness, or it can take me, away from it. And so how I respond is absolutely essential. And so that's what was so, it sounds kind of silly probably coming from someone who has studied A Course in Miracles for several years, to say, wow, it was really something to learn that, I'm responsible for my own thoughts. And because we discuss that, we practice that, Jesus says that. But it was about a 20-minute holy instant for me to have it finally resonate in a way that I could understand it. To me, it's like, when you go to school and you keep reading the same paragraph over and over again, and it makes you crazy. Your teacher gets up there and reads the paragraph and sums it up in 3 little words, and you're like, yes, that's it. Well, that's the way I felt on Thursday with, monitoring my own thoughts. And between Thursday and this morning and right now, so much has happened. All kinds of awarenesses, just different things that I'm eager to address further. Not get into my head and drive myself and my husband crazy, or maybe even my spiritual director crazy, but it really opened up a lot for me. RevLo is my spiritual director. So that's really where I am. And you mentioned Emmett Fox and Jim Finley, and these people have a way of doing just what I needed, and what you chose to read and put out there was just what I needed to hear. Everything just flowed. And after the class, it continued to flow and continued to flow. Like I said, right up till this morning while I was on the elliptical, sweating and going crazy and listening to Muji. It was really, really great. So I want to thank you for Thursday, and I want to thank God for just bringing everything to my awareness in so many ways. Everywhere I turned, it was affirmed that I need to keep my stuff pure. And if I mess up, well, then I mess up, I forgive myself, and I take the next good step. And so there I am. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you too. That song you referred to, My Thoughts Are Prayers, the next line is, and we are always praying. Mm-hmm. The idea is to pay attention to what it is that's going on in our minds. And so the talk we had on Thursday and unpacking it today is about creating that vigilance of self, and that's why Muji's saying that it doesn't define you, because what really defines us is what we do with our thoughts and how much we entertain our thoughts, or entertain our upset as a result of our thoughts. And we had some examples on Thursdays about, things that can happen that can disturb your peace, something from the outside, and then you blame the outside, as opposed to recognizing that, okay, that happened, and now what am I going to do about it? How do I come back to center? How do I regain my peace? How do I re-regulate my nervous system, depending on how deeply you were affected by something? And as you were talking, I had a memory of a guy on Facebook who posed a question, and he set it up like this. He said, I was in a park, and it was rather busy, so I found a bench off to the side, and I got into a meditative posture, and I got deeply into my meditation, and somebody came over and they asked me if I knew if there was a concession stand at the park. And so the question he posed was, how do I let people know not to bother me? You know, can't they tell that I'm meditating? Couldn't he see that I was serenely meditating? And all these people were actually answering him of things like, well, you could say this, you could say that. And I didn't say a word, but what I wanted to say was, you could have told him where the concession stand was. Because, you know, that was a moment of connection with another human being. If you're going to be in a public place showing yourself, then you're basically letting people know I'm here, I'm available, you know, I'm meditating, I'm deeply spiritual.
I'm very holy.
So why wouldn't I be approachable, you know? And that actually reminds me of another story, which is kind of silly, but it's funny. It's a story about these two people who collided, their cars collided, and the one guy got out and was yelling and carrying on about, it's your fault, you hit my car, and the other person was like, I don't know, and you know, so the police came, and you know, the two of them are you know, trying to tell the police what was what. So the police decided who was at fault, and they take the guy who was doing all the yelling and screaming and cursing, and they handcuff him. They said, you know, you need to calm down. And he was like, why do you think it was me? And they said, well, it couldn't be the other person. They had a sticker on their car that said, I love Jesus, follow me to church. And he goes, no, that was my car. That's my car. So it's like, you know, if you're going to put yourself out there, then, you know, be self-aware. We all have to be self-aware. You know, are we truly doing our spiritual practices or putting out our spiritual belief system in public because we're being self-aware, and we know that in this moment I can choose to be kind, I can choose to change my own thoughts, my own way of interacting with you when I'm upset with you, you know, as opposed to that's just for show. That's just for show. And maybe it's a step in the right direction. I'm not judging it. Well, I guess I am a little bit. I'm evaluating it as something that lets us know how important it is for us to be self-aware and to be self-aware of our own thoughts. Yeah. The Course tells us a universal theology is impossible, but a universal experience is not only possible, but necessary. And Paramahansa Yogananda, one of my favorite teachers, said, everything else can wait, your search for God cannot wait. And the idea is that it is a very personal, individual, even though we are all part of one another, we each have to make our own individual decisions. When we wake up in the morning and we offer our hearts to God, you know, here's my heart, Lord, here's my life, here's my willingness to be of service. Use me in service of good, use me in service of kindness, use me in service of compassion, expand my capability and expand my opportunity to be of service today. And then those synchronistic opportunities will present themselves. You and I had a conversation just yesterday that it was like, how did we go from, hey, how you doing, to this conversation that really led us in all kinds of directions that were not of our own brain, but of our joined mind. And that's what we have to remember. This isn't just about the functioning of an organ. This is about a universal mind that is beyond our physical self. And even beyond what we think we can control. Because if you just get an urge to call somebody and they needed to hear from you, where did that urge come from? You know, if I'm preparing a class and at the last minute everything changes and somebody calls me the next day and says, that's exactly what I needed to hear, where did that come from? If not from spirit, and if not from our willingness to be open receptacles of that guidance. Because if we're too busy making sure that nobody bothers me while I'm meditating in a public crowded place, then my head is coming from a very strong ego-centered voice. And the voice of spirit isn't loud. And so if we want to hear it, we have to quiet ourselves. I think I've told you the story about this guy who was working with some folks, and they were all getting ready to leave for the day, and he said, somebody stole my watch. He had gotten a beautiful watch for Christmas from his wife, and he goes, nobody leave, nobody leave. We're gonna find my watch. And they're all looking around for the watch, and he's yelling, everybody's arguing, I didn't take your watch, I need to go home, and blah. So finally, this one guy says, why don't you all just leave, go relax, go sit outside, just relax, let's all calm down. So everybody leaves, and he stayed in the room. He found the watch, and he goes outside. They said, where'd you find it? He goes, well, after y'all got quiet, I could hear it ticking, and that's what we have to do. We have to get quiet so that we can hear that, and so that we can be open and receptive to those synchronistic messages, because they're happening all the time. They're all around us.
All the time, and always around us.
We're just magnets, and it's like we're open and say, if you have a magnet going in the wrong direction, nothing's gonna nothing's gonna come, But if we're facing that direction of like, oh, please let me start this day, knowing that there's all kinds of stuff that's gonna come my way, some of it might be disturbing, and we get tripped up sometimes. I was speaking with a friend last night who was really upset about something that occurred in her life, and my mama bear feathers got ruffled. I don't know, bears don't have, but I was like, I wanted to have something to say, and then I had to think about, it's not just me monitoring me, it's also me monitoring how I interact with you when you're upset, because we think, okay, now I need to come in and protect this other person, or if somebody you love gets hurt, you feel like now's my justification for going into my upset. And that's a great opportunity to say, how can I see this differently and still support my friend who's in an upset? How can I care for another person? Because, we can monitor ourselves when we're taking care of ourselves and say, no, I'm going to be kind. But when it comes to others, like our children or our loved ones, partners, those mama bear.
Those claws come out.
And, I remember when something happened to my niece, and I was headed up to Vermont to visit. And I was like, I need a couple days before I speak at the church, because I'm not feeling very ministerial right now. And so those are things to be aware of too. Like we find ways to justify different levels of upset, and wanting to take care of others is one way that we do feel justified, because we feel so deeply hurt for them, and we want to protect them, we want to hurt them. And so if we come back to that realization that everything in our human experience is an opportunity for us to see who we are and how we are and what we're made of and how we're going to interact. And even if you're in your upset for a moment, to come back and be that softer place to fall, to be that voice of spiritual reason, not preaching reason, not like, leave me alone, I'm meditating, but more like, how can I bring softness to this experience? Not to encourage you to go into a place of hate and anger, but how can I encourage you to heal, to go into a place of healing and self-love and understanding that this is just a moment in time, and I'll go through this moment with you, And
I think a key in all of this that just came to my awareness is the forgiveness of the self as well. Because if I'm going to be looking at myself, I'm going to be holding up a mirror, and I'm going to be aware of my own stuff and be responsible for my own stuff, I'm going to find some ugly stuff in there.
Yeah.
Beating myself up for my ugly stuff is not the way that I think that Muji would suggest that I deal with that thought. If, let's say a thought came up that was judgmental or just ugly, to go, oh, Lisa, you are such a mess, and how could you think like that's not helping the situation. The awareness that I missed the mark. I judged. I don't want to judge. I am a divine child of God and can see this differently if I allow God to work through me. And then just forgive myself, just keep moving ahead. In fact, in that shift in perspective comes the salvation and atonement, so that the forgiveness is just there. It's not okay, Lisa, now you know, I forgive you, Lisa. It happens in that experience of first taking on, being aware, accepting what it is, and then taking the next step.
Yes, agreed. That self-awareness is so important. That self-awareness, to be able to be, and I always use this term, rigorously honest with ourselves.
Yes.
You know, to look at where is my mind going and what am I doing about it? You know, there's like an evolution of our willingness. You know, even in apologies. You know, I apologize, but let me tell you what you did to contribute to my behavior, you know,
Right.
or, you know, and to really get to a place of just saying, you know what, from my heart, from the depth of my being, I'm going to take responsibility for myself and how I show up. What energy do I bring to any situation, and why? Because if I bring an unkind, unhealthy, unloving energy, what is going on in me? And that's my opportunity to do the correction. A sin, according to A Course in Miracles, is a mistake in need of correction. So
Right.
we're here to make our corrections willingly and openly, and to be willing to take that deeper look. Even after, you know, speaking with my friend about her upset, I was able to see the other person's perspective without presenting it to her, because I didn't want her to be like, whose side are you on? But
Right.
opening my heart to that other perspective and realizing we've all sat at every chair at the table of life, you know.
Better believe
so whenever we have an upset with someone, we were them at one time. Or when a friend is having an upset, we know either we were them, or we judge them, or we experience that in some way. So it always comes back to the realization within. You know, that inner gaze, that willingness to be inwardly gazed before we engage with
Right.
what's
Right.
out there.
Right.
So I think that digging deep and unpacking these issues is what helps us have those spiritually synchronistic moments, because we're letting spirit know more of this.
And it's so empowering. It is so in such a wonderful way. Like, wow, God really heard me. You know, Spirit's actually moving, you know, my way. It's beautiful.
Yes, I agree. Well, thank you, Goddi Lisa. I appreciate this time. I appreciate this time together, and I look forward to see what happens on Thursday, so we can talk about it next Tuesday. So the comment section is below, and there's also an email for anyone who would like to contact us with any questions. And so please give us an opportunity to be in prayer together before we sign off.
Thank you very much. Oh God, we are one with you. You have made us one with you. You have taught us that if we are open to one another, you dwell in us. Help us to realize that there can be no Help us to realize there can be no understanding where there is mutual rejection. Oh God, in accepting one another wholeheartedly, fully, completely, we accept you and we thank you and we adore you and we love you with our whole being, because our being is in your being. Our spirit is rooted in your spirit. Fill us then with love, and let us be bound together with love as we go our diverse ways, united in this one spirit which makes you present in the world and which you witness to the ultimate reality that is love. Love has overcome. Love is victorious. Amen.
Amen. And who are you quoting there?
I am quoting Thomas Merton from the Asian Journal of Thomas Merton.
Beautiful. We love him. We love you.
Love him.
We love all of you there. We'll see you again soon.
Okay.
Bless you.
Love you.
No, I love you. Namaste.
Namaste.